नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयम् उदीरयेत् नास्त्यप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवतसेवया भगवद्युत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी ॐ ज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। मुखं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपात्वमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुं दीनतारिणम्. Today we are discussing Srimad Bhagavatam, verse Canto 3, chapter 26, text 18. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Antapurusharupena Kalarupena Yobahi Samanvetyesha Sattvanam Bhagavan Atmamayaya. Antapurusharupena Kalarupena Yobahi Samanvetyesha Sattvanam Bhagavan Atmamayaya. Antapurusharupena Kalarupena Yobahi Samanvetyesha Sattvanam Bhagavan Atmamayaya. Word meaning: Anta, within, Purusha Rupena, in the form of super soul, Kala Rupena, in the form of time, Ya, he who, Bahi, without, Samanveti, exists, Esha, he, Sattvanam, of all living entities, Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Atma Mayaya, by his potencies. Translation: by exhibiting his potencies, the Supreme Personality of Godhead adjusts all these different elements, keeping himself within as the super soul and without as the time. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Here it is stated that within the heart of the Supreme Personality of Godhead resides, within the heart, the Supreme Personality of Godhead resides as the super soul. This situation is also explained in Bhagavad Gita. The super soul rests beside the individual soul and acts as a witness. This is also confirmed elsewhere in the Vedic literature. Two birds are sitting on the same tree of body. One is witnessing and the other is eating the fruits of the tree. This Purusha or Paramatma, who resides within the body of the individual soul, is described in Bhagavad Gita 13:23 as the Upadrishta, witness, and the Anumanta, sanctioning authority. The conditioned soul engages in the happiness and distress of the particular body given him by the arrangement of the external energy of the Supreme Lord. But the Supreme Living Being, or the Paramatma, is different from the conditioned soul. He is described in Bhagavad Gita as Maheshwara, or the Supreme Lord. He is Paramatma, not Jivatma. Paramatma means the super soul, who is sitting by the side of the conditioned soul just to sanction his activities. The conditioned soul comes to this material world in order to lord it over material nature. Since one cannot do anything without the sanction of the Supreme Lord, he lives with the Jiva soul as the witness and sanction giver. He is also Bhokta. He gives maintenance and sustenance to the conditioned soul. Since the living entity is constitutionally part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Lord is very affectionate to the living entities. Unfortunately, when the living entity is bewildered or illusioned by the external energy, he becomes forgetful of his eternal relationship with the Lord. But as soon as he becomes aware of his constitutional position, he is liberated. The minute independence of the conditioned soul is exhibited by his marginal position. If he likes, he can forget the Supreme Personality of Godhead and come into the material existence with a false ego, lord it over material nature. But if he likes, he can turn his face to the service of the Lord. The individual living entity is given that independence. His conditional life is ended, and his life becomes successful as soon as he turns his face to the Lord. But by misusing his independence, he enters into the material existence. Yet the Lord is so kind that as super soul, he always remains with the conditioned soul. The concern of the Lord is neither to enjoy nor to suffer from the material body. He remains with the jiva simply as sanction giver and witness to that, and as a witness so that the living entity can receive the results of his activities, good or bad. Outside the body of the conditioned soul, the Supreme Personality of Godhead remains as the time factor. According to the Sankhya system of philosophy, there are 25 elements. The 24 elements already described, plus the time factor, makes it 25. According to some learned philosophers, the super soul is included to make a total of 26 elements. Om Atnanatimmirandasya Atnananjana Shalakya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Thank you all for being here. So the verses from 15 through 18 in this chapter is actually about the time. In verse number 15, time is described as the 25th element. And in verse number 16, time is described as the instigator of the fear of death. I think Vinod Bihari Prabhu spoke on that. Instigator of the fear of death in the conditioned soul. And in verse number 17, the time is described as the agitator of the gunas in the Prakriti. And that is what leads to material creation. And in this verse, it is described that Lord exists internally as Paramatma and externally as the time. So for human intelligence, it is very difficult to conceive how this whole creation is resting on the expansive energy of the Lord. Whether it is internally or externally, everything is resting on the energy of the Supreme Lord. These 24 elements that are described, which is the 5 gross elements and the sense objects, and which is the 10 matras, then the 10 senses, and then the antakaranas, which is mind, intelligence, false ego, and also the chitta, and then time factor, it adds to 25th element, 25th in number, but sometimes it is described as 26, or in the case of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, 28. Doesn't matter what the number adds up, but it is very difficult for the human intelligence to comprehend how everything, the whole creation, whether starting from minutest atom to that of the everything that is existing within the expanse of the whole universe, it is resting on the Lord's energy. But in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is giving an example. He said that just like the air or the atoms that it are resting on the expansive sky is the resting place. But the sky is not affected by any of this. It remains separate and unaffected. Similarly, the Supreme Lord also, everything created by the expansion of his energy, and he is always remaining separate and independent from all of this. So in this verse, Srila Prabhupada, in the purport, he's making two different points. The first one, he's describing how the Lord exists internally as the internally in his fullness, not in partiality. In his fullness, he is present in each and every atom of creation as Paramatma. And externally, the Lord is managing everything in the form of time. So time is called the power of the Supreme Lord. In verse number 16, if you look at it, it's the word used is Paurusham. Paurusham, the energy, the power of the Lord, from which the jiva's fear arises. Kartu. Kartu means fear. So in the purport, Prabhupada is describing the position of the Paramatma, the witnessing consciousness, as all of you know about the two birds analogy, sitting on the same tree, and the description of Paramatma as the witnessing consciousness. And he is also functioning as Anumanta, sanctioning authority, and the distinct difference between Paramatma and Jivatma. So the Paramatma is accompanying the Jivatma as witness as well as one who sanctions. He gives everything. And he is Bhokta, Prabhupada writes. He is Bhokta, giving maintenance and sustenance to the conditioned soul. Also, how the Lord is so kind to accompany the soul, witnessing everything that the living entity is doing and simply functioning just like a sanctioner of our activities. Very briefly to touch upon Paramatma, because I want to move on to the time factor. But Paramatma is very interesting. Jiva Goswami, as you all know, in his 6 Sandarbhas, there is one of the Sandarbhas is Paramatma Sandarbha. So there he is describing very elaborately the distinct manifestation and the specific features of Paramatma and comparing it with the specific qualities of Bhagavan, the Supreme Lord. It's a unique work within the whole of Sandarbhas. Paramatma Sandarbha is very intricate. Paramatma, again, is called as Purusha. Purusha means just like how people conceive of Lord as the creator or overseer, that type of function. But when you think about Bhagavan, Bhagavan is described in the sense that he is the God, is in his own intrinsic being. It's not like his position as managing this whole creation, either by entering into the heart of the living entity or by regulating everything, both his marginal energy as well as his external energy as a time factor. That's not Bhagavan. Bhagavan is in his own intrinsic being. So while Paramatma remains as the regulator and Bhagavan is a different feature. It's interesting to note also that while Paramatma is living within this heart of the living entities and accompanying the soul, under all circumstances, he is never ever influenced by the external potency, even while present within the midst of this external potency. So this is very interesting, just to touch upon Paramatma. Now, there is this verse in Brahma Samhita which describes Antantarastha Paramanu Chayantarastham. It's very relevant how beautifully Brahma Samhita captures a lot of things about the creation and our existence. So Brahma Samhita, that is verse number 35. Ekopyasau rajayitum jagadanta kotim yachakchirasti jagadanta chayayaranta Antantarastha Paramanu Chayantarastham Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. The translation is he is an undifferentiated entity, as there is no distinction between potency and the possessor thereof. In his work of creation of millions of worlds, his potency remains inseparable. All the universes exist in him, and he is present in his fullness in every atom, in every one of the atoms that are scattered throughout the universe at one and the same time. That is the Lord existing in his fullness simultaneously in one and all atoms within his creation. So that is the primeval Lord whom I adore. So the Lord can create, the Lord will continue to create numberless universes. And that creative aspect is, it is like a transformation of his external energy. And when we think about the Lord and his abode, it is beyond human conception. Um, since all the worlds with that which is mundane and spiritual is existing in him, he is residing simultaneously in his fullness, his entirety, in all the creation, in all the atoms, in all the worlds, whether it is material or spiritual. So we would think this all pervasive aspect of the Lord. We hear about God as omnipotent, omnipresent, omniscient. When we hear these majestic terminologies, we feel like, oh, this is amazing. But actually, that is only the localized aspect of the Lord, in the sense that when we think about omnipotent, omnipresent, omniscient within this creation, it is the Paramatma feature of the Lord who is responsible for all that is happening here. But we have to always remember the spiritual, the lordship of the supreme, the supreme Lord's, how to say this, even though he is all pervasive, yet in his existence as, um, since he is present both in the spiritual and in the material creation, that establishes the supremacy of the Lord. That is the real Lord himself. We need not feel so amazed just to see his presence within this material creation alone. So we all know that the tiniest little particle within this creation, which is indivisible, both by science and by spiritual knowledge, we know that indivisible particle is known as atom. And atoms are invisible to all of us. And at the time of dissolution of this universe, or dissolution of everything within the creation, our material body, which is a combination of atoms, it goes back into the atomic state. So we can say that the atoms are the ultimate state of the manifest universe. And Lord is present in his fullness in every atom of the creation. So come back to the point, the second point in this verse is about the time. The verse is saying, Kala Rupena Yo Bahi. In the form of time, the Lord is acting. How? Externally. Internally, he is acting as Paramatma. In Kala Rupa, he is acting externally. So in Sanskrit, time, as you all know, is known as Kala. So our life, this universe, everything within this material existence, it is moving according to this wheel of time. Other words, Kala Rupa, or otherwise it's known as the Kala chakra. So time without fail, it strips us of every single thing that we consider valuable in our life. Not only valuable, anything that is in existence, time takes it away. So therefore, that is really a very uncomfortable reality that everybody has to face. And since we are eternal living entities, this is not acceptable for us. And this is one of the reasons why we are seeking uh, for this spiritual knowledge, because nobody wants to accept the fact that we will not exist, because time will take it away. In fact, nothing is taken away because the soul eternally exists. And this is that which makes us want to search for our spiritual destination. So, time, which is acting as the instigator of the Prakriti, which the previous verse was describing. So, this, as we discussed, this ultimate particle, which is indivisible, called the atom, it is invisible to our eye. So even after everything is, the creation is destroyed, everything is dissolved, and everything goes back into atomic state. And because our body is made of these atoms, um, according to Srimad Bhagavatam, it is stated that we can estimate time by measuring the movement of the atomic combinations of our body. So, time being the potency of the Supreme Lord Hari, who controls all the physical movements. So, he is not visible. The Supreme Lord Hari is not visible to our mundane eye in this world, but he is existing as time. And time, in the sense, there is something called atomic time, there is something called Mahakala, or the great time. So atomic time, according to the scriptures, it is measured according to how it powers a particular atomic space. And so that time which covers this a tiny atom, that is atomic time. But then we have to see this entire creation, starting from, I mean, looking from the atomic state to universal scale, where so many planetary systems and luminaries and everything is existing within our universe and beyond our universe. That is the greater time, or which is called as Mahakala. It's a very interesting subject. It gives us discussion of this, really makes us see how the Lord is so amazing, and all this is managed by the Supreme Lord, by His inconceivable power, everything within His energy. So, for a human being, usually we say that the average lifespan is about 100 years. And there are stars and planets and luminaries and atoms all over this universe. And each one of this is rotating within its own orbit. And this rotation is taking place under the guidance or under the direction of the Supreme Lord. And that, in that particular feature of the Lord, as this Mahakala, or eternal time. It's amazing to think about it. So there is in Srimad Bhagavatam, there is the conversation between Vidura and Maitreya. And so Vidura is asking to Maitreya, "Oh, spiritually powerful one, can you understand the movements of eternal, sorry, oh spiritually powerful one, you can understand the movements of eternal time, which is the controlling form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You can see everything by the power of mystic vision." So Vidura is asking Maitreya to explain about eternal time. So we have to understand that this is not a subject matter that can be understood by any other means other than by the mercy of the Supreme Lord. Maitreya being such a great devotee, and even though here it is said by the power of mystic vision, of course, mystic yogis can do many things, like what we learned in the previous section about Kardama Muni and his travels, and Swayambhuva Manu and Priyavrata and all that. That they have mystic perfections, but mystic perfection is part of being the great devotees of the Lord. So the Lord reveals himself and how his energy works to his dear devotees. So Maitreya is one of that. Maitreya is one of such a personality. So it is in that context when Vidura is asking this question to Maitreya that Maitreya is explaining in Srimad Bhagavatam the time, and he describes the yugas, the duration of the yugas, yuga sandhyas, and also Brahma's life and duration of Brahma's life. These are all a lot of time calculation. So eternal time is certainly a controller of different dimensions. From different dimensions meaning from that of the atom up to the super division of Lord Brahma's own lifetime. So from the minutest atom to the life of our secondary creator, Lord Brahma, everything is controlled by the Lord's time factor. And it is controlled by the Supreme. And therefore, time can control only those who are bodily conscious, even up to the living entity who is there in the Satya Yuga. Time cannot control someone who is under the Krishna conscious. As long as we are bodily conscious, whether you are an amoeba or an atom or Lord Brahma, if you remain in bodily consciousness, time can control. But the moment you become Krishna conscious, time cannot, because the time is under the control, or time is the Supreme Lord himself. So this is one thing. And the time covered by the sun in passing over the atom, that is called as an atomic time. And the greater time, or Mahakala, which covers this entire existence of our material manifestation. What does that really means? So what it means, according to Srimad Bhagavatam, and also there are many other Vedic literatures which describes about this Mahakala. And what is said there is that all the planets are rotating within the space. And the space is calculated in terms of the atoms that occupy. So each planet has got its own orbit, and it is rotating perfectly within its own orbit. And it will never deviate from its own orbit, and it is continuously happening. There is no stopping of it. So the complete calculation of the time of creation, maintenance, and dissolution, all of that is measured in terms of the circulation of the total planetary systems until the end of creation. And that is the supreme Kala. So that means until the end of creation, everything is happening like a clockwork. And because it is the Lord's energy, it is the Lord himself, there is a way everything is calculated, and that calculation is not human calculation. It is something which is communicated from the Lord to great personalities like Maitreya, or even there are others, even recent times under Madhva Sampradaya, who has written Bhugola Varnana, a great personality. And all of these personalities who are able to capture the essence of this is not by any scientific method, but it is their the mercy of the Supreme Lord by which they are able to clearly understand these. And it's very scientific too, even though we may try to analyze it. We may or may not understand it, but everything is so precise. That's the beauty of this. Um, so in Brahma Samhita, also it is stated that sun is the eye of the Supreme Lord, and it rotates in its own particular orbit of time, just like any other luminaries we talked about. Every planetary system and every atom is rotating within its own orbit. So sun has its own orbit too. So beginning from the sun down to the atom, all bodies are under the influence of Kala Chakra, or orbit of eternal time. And each of them has a scheduled orbital time, which is known as a Samvatsara. And in Brahma Samhita, verse number 52, the Lord is the verse says, Yachakshuresha savita sakala grihanam raja samasta suramurti rashesha teja yasyatnaya brahmati sambrida kala chakro govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, the supreme personality of Godhead, under whose control even the sun, which is considered to be the eye of the Lord, rotates within the fixed orbit of eternal time. So Brahma Samhita is corroborating everything that is in Srimad Bhagavatam, which is again described by later personalities as well. So sun is the king of all planetary systems and has the unlimited potency in heat and light. Another interesting point is by the end of Brahma's day, we all know there are partial annihilations taking place. When you say partial annihilations, all the planetary systems are not destroyed. There are planets belonging to highly learned living entities like Bhrigu and Sanaka, and they are not affected by the dissolution of partial creation of Lord Brahma. So that proves that all these different planets are different types, and each one is controlled by its own different Kala Chakra, or there is a schedule within this eternal time. So the time on earth may not be, it's not applicable to any other elevated planets. And that is why Vidura is asking Maitreya to describe the duration of life in other planets. So this eternal time, Mahakala, it is never lost, even at the along with even at with the life of Lord Brahma. This time is never lost. It continues. And at the same time, this being Lord himself, it cannot control the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is time, and time cannot control the Lord. And this is why it's again and again very important for us to remind ourselves that we should never remain in our bodily consciousness, because it is that which creates the feeling of fear. Otherwise, if we are Krishna conscious, we know there is nothing to fear. The Lord is here as time. So in the spiritual world also, we know there is time, but time has the quality of not passing away even for a fraction of a second, according to Brahma Samhita. That being said, in spiritual world, everything is eternal, everything is ever expanding, everything is on the absolute plane, and naturally, time also in the spiritual world, time also exists like that, but it's a different type of time. That brings me to the concluding part of this. I will take a few minutes. There is this description in Srimad Bhagavatam, 5th canto, of a form of the Lord, and it is known as a Shishumara planetary system. This is in the fifth canto, 20, chapter 23. The description is like this. Some describe this zodiac belt. This Shishumara planetary system is known as zodiac belt to be the form of a Shishumara dolphin. Some worship this form of the Lord for worshipping Vasudeva. Some as Virat Rupa. The dolphin form of the Lord has its head downward and its body coiled upwards, turning towards its right side. This form of the Lord can be considered as an external form of the Lord. It's not an eternal form of the Lord. It is an external form of the Lord. This Shishumara chakra is the resting place of all the stars and planets and demigods. Everything is balanced within this body of this form of the Lord, which is like a dolphin. Its tail is touching this Dhruvaloka. Its snout is pointing towards Mount Meru, you can say, because all of this is happening. If you look at the vertical cross section of the universe, Mount Meru is in the center, and above Mount Meru, where the seven planetary systems are there, it goes all the way up to the covering of the universe. And within that vast expanse, the Lord, this Shishumara planetary system, which is the form of a dolphin, it exists. So Madhvacharya, he quotes from Brahmanda Purana the following. He says, Lord Vishnu, who is the source of knowledge and transcendental bliss, has assumed the form of Shishumara in the seventh heaven, which is situated in the topmost level of the universe. All the other planets, beginning with the sun, exist under the shelter of this Shishumara planetary system. There is detailed description of this, and it's very interesting. The tail is touching Dhruvaloka, the snout is pointing downwards, and planets and constellations and everything is on its body, very nicely balanced. Again, in Srimad Bhagavatam 5:22, it is described the glories of the Supreme Lord who descended as the time wheel. This is describing the glories of the Lord who descended as the time wheel. It is stated there that when the saintly persons, fully aware of the Vedic knowledge, offered prayers to the Supreme Person, he descended to this material world in the form of the sun to benefit all planets and purify fruitive activities. He divided himself into 12 parts and created the seasonal forms, beginning with spring. So the 12 forms and the 6 seasons, and for purifying, the purpose of all of this, the division of months and the division of seasons, all of this is meant for purifying the living entities. The time is regulating our activities. In other words, Lord as time wheel is regulating and purifying our activities. So this Kala Chakra, it's also called as Kala Gata, in which the chariot of the sun, it is also traveling in its own orbit, which has got 12 spokes and it has got 6 rims and 3 hubs, and all the details are there. So this Kala Chakra, it's like a mechanism. It's very intriguing. It's really fantastic. It is a mechanism that helps counting the division of time, whether it is from atomic level all the way to the life of Lord Brahma. This mechanism, it helps us to understand or count the time. So, and as I said, one more little detail, but there's so much that is there in our scriptures. It is said that this Shishumara planetary system, the dolphin-like figure of the Lord, it extends to a height of 36 lakh yojanas, with his beautiful face turned downward, his tail touching the Dhruva planet, pole star. And the brilliance the brilliance of this form of the Lord, Shishumara, is much more than 1,000 suns. That's how bright it is. It's so bright because all these luminaries and all the amazing constellations and everything is existing within, properly balanced within the body of this form of the Lord. So time is usually, it is an abstract concept. We cannot really put our fingers on what time is. We cannot see with our external senses, that's for sure. But we can see there is a past, there is a present, there is a future, and therefore we have a sense of time. But how can we ever conceive what is this Mahakala, which is being controlled and regulated by the Lord? And to this extent, there is detailed description how these luminaries and the planetary systems are all balanced within the body of the Lord. So this Mahakala, amazing thing, this one is running like a continuous stream. There is no end to this thing. Based on the description in Srimad Bhagavatam and these other scriptures, time wheel, it is time wheel, it gives room for all these planets to move. It enables human beings to take note of the passing of the time. And it is um, passing of the time in its fractional form, meaning understanding like we have these minutes and we have the hour, we have a day, we have a week, and we have a month. In fractional form, we are able to understand based on these teachings. So we can say everything is dependent on time. We can say that. And time is also, we can say it is synonymous with the will of God, even though time is an abstract thing. But because of the scriptural knowledge that is given to us by these great saintly personalities, we can say, even though it is not visible with our eyes, uh, even though it is an abstract concept, we can still bring it to somewhat relatable based upon these descriptions. Now I'm going to finish this with another interesting aspect of this. The pole star or Dhruva Loka, um, generally it is known as like a pole star. It's like a constant. It doesn't move. It looks like fixed. And when you read about this more, you see that there are all kind of luminaries moving within the that space, which is above Mount Meru and till the end of the universe. And there are different things, like such as the vehicles of Gandharvas or some occupants of higher planetary systems, along with the movement of luminaries and movement of many stars and planets. Everything is going in its own orbit. So it is foolish on our part to think that using some kind of a mechanism we create within this world, we will be able to see the movement of a tiny object, relatively speaking, tiny meaning, let us say a Gandharva is traveling in his vehicle. The movement of that will be relatively, what to say, slower compared to the the planets which are moving in its own orbit. And how can the same mechanism measure their movements? So it's a matter of looking at it in a relative way. So Dhruva, the planet of Dhruva is known as Dhruva Mandala. The mere use of the word mandala, it indicates that Dhruva planet also, it is moving in its own orbit, but we cannot see it. So scientists, they don't know anything about any of these things, and they call something, they use the term constant velocity or something like that. And this constant velocity, what is it? What is constant velocity? How does it, what does it really mean? Uh, Even the scientists really don't understand, but according to Bhagavatam and other Vedic scriptures, we have to take it for granted that including Dhruvaloka, everything within the creation is moving according to the time wheel. There are like 28 constellations, nakshatras, and every one of them is moving in a clockwise direction around Mount Meru, and it is all seated on the wheel of time. They do not have a independent, separate motion, and everything is within allotted time, allotted orbit, and it is moving along with the time wheel. And it's very difficult to fully understand this, but it is very fascinating. So there is this saintly person who is coming under Madhva Sampradaya, Dvaita school. His name is Vadiraja Tirtha, and he has written a book called Bhugola Varnana, and in there is the detailed description of this Kala Chakra. And it is said that there are like 35 topics he's addressing, related to Earth, planets, stars, cosmos, and other worlds. He's going into details of that. So every heavenly body, in essence, I'm going to conclude with this. Every heavenly body has its own wheel forming part of that whole Kala Chakra. Every heavenly body, it has got its own wheel, which is part of the bigger Kala Chakra. It is going along with it, but with very different velocity. Velocity is different. It's not constant velocity. Velocity is different. So the entire Kala Chakra, there is this description in this Bhugola Varnana. It can be compared to like an umbrella. It's like an open umbrella with its the apex of the umbrella is touching the Dhruvaloka, and the base of it is it is the main wheel. So this main wheel is supposed to take this entire mechanism, the whole time mechanism with it. And the whole wheel is studded with stars and star-like bodies. It's like so beautiful just even to imagine these stars and star-like bodies studded within this huge umbrella like Kala Chakra. And because these luminaries are there, it is bright, it is brilliant. We talked about that. It's like more than thousands of suns. And therefore, it is known as Jyotish Chakra. So this Jyotish Chakra, it is this wheel, it is moving because of Lord Shishumara. Shishumara is moving it, and it moves day after day with great speed, great velocity, and it takes the stars and planets along with it. Fascinating. And the changes of season, change from heat, cold, and all of this, it's all happening because of this Jyotish Chakra. Because the sun and moon moving northern and southern courses, this is described. It's a very difficult one to understand. It is described how the Lord can lift and lower the time wheel using his tail, which is pointing towards that pole star. Using his tail, the Lord, as Shishumara, can lift the Kala Chakra up and down very gently. And when that happens, there is um, change in seasons. And so this chakra is running, this Kala Chakra is running, along with it, all the planets and everything in its own orbit is running without any horse. And therefore, it is described in this Bhugala Varnana that it is known as an anarva. Anarva means that which is moving without horse. So, so this Kala Chakra extending from top of Mount Meru all the way to the end of the universe, the universal covering. It is also said it reaches up to the pole star, and it includes even the Shweta Dvipa, abode of the Supreme Lord on the top part of our planetary system. So that's the extent of that Kala Chakra. And that's just our universe. And you can imagine like what are it's, of course, no matter how we try, ordinary people cannot understand this. This is all revealed to personalities like Maitreya, or uh, for that matter, even Vadiraja Tirtha. They are all saintly personalities, and by their devotion to the Lord, this is all revealed to them. And we, tiny living entities, we are able to get a glimpse of this. And the amazing thing about it is, this verse is that internally the Lord, acting as Paramatma, and externally as the time factor, this feature of the Lord, how he's controlling and managing everything within the creation, starting from an atom to all the way to the entirety of the universe in his own way. He decided, he can choose, he could have chosen to do it in any other way, but that's the way he chose to do this. And we are able to just appreciate this. That's all, a tiny little bit of appreciation. But that appreciation, it really makes you um, want to love this Lord who created this universe, and who is maintaining and sustaining and doing everything for us. And it is really very enlivening to study about, or at least to hear about this beauty of this his creation, the beauty, the way he's enacting all these things, both within this material creation and within the his spiritual creation. That is the Supreme Lord whom we adore. Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. I think I went completely overboard. Oh my Krishna. I didn't even notice it is. I'm so sorry. My apologies, but that was it took all the time. Um, Apologize for that. Unless if somebody has any comments or questions or discussion, appreciate that.
Hare Krishna Mataji, this is Jyotirmaya Dasi. Please accept
Yeah.
my humble obeisances. All glories to Guru Maharaj and Srila Prabhupada. Wow, it was indeed so fascinating, Mataji. Thank you for giving us so thoroughly and beautiful description. Uh, my brain is so tiny to really even think about those stuff. Still, my brain is like planning so many things. How tiny I am. One thing for sure, I'm feeling very grateful to Srila Prabhupada and devotees around me. Thank you so much, Mataji. It was so good. Thank you.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. I think we took a lot of time, and I took my apologies, and so I think
Hare
Prabhu,
Krishna.
if the who is that? Chintamani.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. This is
Hare Krishna.
Chintamani. Mataji, thank you so much. It was such a wonderful description, and I can, you should do the weekend classes, Mataji. We
What
would
weekend
like to
class?
hear more. The weekend classes, we have a full hour. We should be able to, because a lot of people dropped off actually. But I mean, because there's much, so much, Mataji, that you are, sharing. And I was just thinking, the expanse of the Lord. I mean, it's like where, and I mean, all these planetary systems, the Shishumara planet, I mean, the wheel and all these luminous bodies, and yet we have access to, to him as our deities.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just so
Our
humbling,
deities are very,
so
very
amazing.
special. Our deities are very special for us. Yes. Jyotish chakra. Jyotish
Yeah.
chakra. Yeah.
Yes,
Mohan Leela Prabhu, I'm
thank you
seeing you
so
here.
much. I mean, that is.
Mohan Leela Prabhu is here.
Hare Krishna Mataji, yes Mataji.
I cannot hear you.
Can you hear me Mataji?
No. What happened?
Better now, Mataji?
Yeah, better.
Yes, Mataji. Yeah, I was hearing, in between, because I have to send the kids also to school.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but it's amazing how the description, I mean, each aspect, right? The primary creation, secondary creation, and Kala, how they all come together. It's nice. It's
It's
fascinating.
like,
I always thought, why the Bhagavatam, talks about creation and whatnot. But, I think we were introduced to Krishna consciousness very early, that we get access to the Supreme Lord directly very early.
mm,
We forget his magnanimity and of how big this creation is, and how little we are compared to it, and how our knowledge sometimes, at least for me, what I think is, oh, I know about Krishna consciousness, I know about Krishna. But when you go back and read about the creation, which is a small piece that Krishna manifests in, you know, it's very hard to conceive. Then it becomes really humbling. Yeah, I think I don't know much.
I know. I always feel like this intellectual exercise it is not of any particular use, but uh, the beauty. I mean, there is nothing, no subject which is so fascinating than subject relating to uh, the glorification of the Lord, because he is such a supreme being. One of the things I liked about this description of Paramatma, or the comparison of Paramatma feature of the Lord versus the Bhagavan feature, is we may think like Paramatma, uh, who is witnessing everything, sanctioning everything, accompanying the living entity. All of this appears to be like a very difficult, uh, how to say it. It is a uh, uh, he is present in every atom of creation. That aspect on the one side, and then there is this other side of it, which is all of that put together is only one aspect of the Lord, and yet he is the master of everything within the creation and outside of creation, and he is also there as an entity which is untouched by anything that is going on here. And that is the spiritual potency and supremacy of the Supreme Lord whom we are worshiping. So, with our tiny intellect, we can only appreciate. And I don't think anybody, any living entity would ever understand a single thing about any of these. Um, Only thing what we can hope for is from hearing about it from persons who are so gifted by the blessing of the Supreme Lord, that this knowledge is revealed to them, and they have put it in writing for us. And because of that, we are at least even able to think about it a little bit. But it is most amazing to meditate upon this, and the more, just like the opulence of the absolute in Bhagavad Gita, similarly the opulence of the Supreme Lord in so many different ways. It gives such a deep appreciation for the Lord that there is not even a question of a doubt about the spiritual path that we have to take. And that was just one of my thoughts. I think we took a lot of extra time. Thank you all for your patience. Appreciate that. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Master. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna.